Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us on our webinar today on all things food. We'll make a start now, but this webinar will be recorded for those of you who couldn't make it, or for your colleagues who couldn't make it, so you can share it with them. We've got some great speakers for you today, and there'll be plenty of time to ask questions, so please do write down your questions in the Q&A box or chat box, and we'll try get to them. So today we've got, thank you, Lucy Donald from Oakwell Rise Primary. We've got Dr. Jason O'Rourke from Washingborough Academy, and Colette Fox from ProVeg, which is a great organisation helping to create healthy and sustainable school menus. We've also got our very own Alison, who is our Let's Go Zero programme coordinator, who will be giving you an update on a competition we're running this month. So we hope you find this webinar useful and you go away with some great ideas and initiatives that you can apply to your own school setting. Just before we kick off, I'll quickly introduce Let's Go Zero and our campaign to those of you who are new to it. So Let's Go Zero is a campaign uniting all schools across the UK to become more sustainable and get to zero carbon. We are calling on the government for support and funding to get to zero carbon, and it also encompasses the biodiversity emergency that we're facing and the important role that schools can play in protecting natural spaces. So schools sign up to show their intent and ambition, and we work with schools because they are a pillar in our communities and they can really make change happen within their school grounds, but also the wider community through their parents and carers, and local organisations that they work with. So food, all things food. Schools are doing absolutely incredible things, from food waste to food growing to changing their school menus to include more vegan and vegetarian options, or even just having a meat-free Monday as a slow introduction to becoming more sustainable. They're embedding it into their curriculum, and you'll hear from one school today who's even tackling the cost of living crisis through food distribution and food growing, which is just amazing. So the campaign itself is uniting schools in environmental action, and we encourage you to go on to our website and have a look at all the different organisations that can support you in taking action. So if you go on to letsgozero.org/act, we've got our different pillars, which include transport, waste, food, water, nature, energy, curriculum. And if you look at them and look at find help, then all of these different organisations will be signposted for you, and they really do support schools. And we're all working together as a coalition of organisations trying to help you to become more sustainable and get to zero carbon. So without further ado, I would love to hand over to Lucy, who's the Office Manager of Oakwell Rise Primary Academy in South Yorkshire, and she will share with you what they're doing in their school around food. So over to you, Lucy.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, I'm just going to start it on a slideshow so you can see some of the details. So we were fortunate to be successful in the Let's Go Zero IKEA funding campaign, which enabled us to develop some initiatives that we've got within school. The focus for the Let's Go Zero campaign from last year was the development of an pantry, which is ultimately a outside wooden hut, for want of a better word, that we distribute surplus food from. So we collect food from Neighbourly and Fair Share. We prevent that food going to waste sites and the landfills, and we distribute that food to prevent food inequality and to support our families with the cost of living increases. So not only are we repurposing food for environmental reasons, we're also doing that for economical reasons. In addition to the pantry, we have developed our own grow your own gardens. So we grow seasonally different types of vegetables and fruit that the community can actually utilize for their own purposes. So within that, we've got a parental gardening group that come along and they maintain some of the growth. And then we've got children from the age of 4 through to 11 that are learning how to maintain a garden, to grow their own food, to become more sustainable, which ultimately then also reduces the impact of the cost of living on their families, and also embeds a more sustainable way of living from a very young age. We were also fortunate to have a community fridge, so if any local families, organisations, businesses have any surplus food that they no longer require, they can just come along, pop it in the community fridge, and that's accessible to anybody within our area. We are listed on the Co-op community fridge site, so we do get people who may be in need of an item for economical reasons. It might be somebody who is wanting to live sustainably, but that is access to everybody. And then one of the other initiatives that we introduced was the Cook and Eat programme. So our Cook and Eat programme is delivered by a family and community worker, and she instructs around about 10 families, so up to 25 people at a time, on how to cook ethically, sustainably and healthily. We use the surplus food that we receive from Fair Share and Neighbourly in order to make those meals, and we also use air fryers to reduce the cost of energy that's used within the home. We did that in partnership with Tesco Cookery School, and organisations can actually register to visit the cookery school that's been set up by Jamie Oliver to learn skills on how to use this surplus food. In addition to all of those, we do have our own composting. I think that's quite common now within both residential and business organisations. We again start that from the age of 3 with our nursery. So as soon as they've eaten their fruit in the morning, they've got a little compost caddy that they will just go and pop their apple core or orange peel into, and then we actually use that compost for the grow your own garden. So everything the children are seeing then from start to finish actually the benefits of living sustainably. More recently, we have started the recycling initiatives with TerraCycle and Ragbag. Unfortunately, we live in a local authority that does not have recycling initiatives for schools. That is something that has been a point of contention with our school council, and we have written to the mayor, we have written to the local council, but until those policies are changed, we are adopting these initiatives within school. Not only are these initiatives then available for the whole community, so everybody can bring these items in, whether you've got somebody that goes to your school or not, but it also raises funds for your school because you get pennies or pounds back on what you actually recycle, which then is feeds back into our grow your own garden and will get us more equipment. So then it becomes more sustainable just by ethical living. Within the school, we have a 1 hour no electric scheme that's ongoing. So every half term, our students will make sure that literally everything is turned off, except emergency lighting, things that are necessary. And then we monitor actually how much electricity we have saved and then equate that into actually how that's benefiting the environment. That is monitored by our school party, and they feed back through to the remainder of the school via assemblies. So they are taking a more dominant role in actually having that responsibility for this impact. It's not just something they are told about. I'm going to move on. So our longer term plans for our establishment is to continue with the development of our grow your own garden, and make sure that we are growing vegetables and fruits at the correct seasonal period, and then that will grow in how much produce we actually manage to deliver, and then we'll go out through to the families. We're also looking at creating a organic chicken area. They will be outside, and we'll be able to distribute those eggs through to the local community as well. And in some situations, the children might be able to learn cooking with eggs. They might do a bit of baking, or they might make something that they can then take home to their families and feed. So then they are learning again ethically how to cook healthy meals for their communities and their families. In addition, with as I've mentioned, we've got the parental and carer gardening groups. We're actually developing that now into a accredited qualification. So our parents or our adults within our community have the skills and then the accreditation to support either a self-employment way of living if they choose to go into employment, or it will give them access to further training or into the employment field. And that's been led by the ambition coaches over at Barnsley MBC, but also the adult learning teams in college. And the uptake on that has been really quite successful. In terms of how you actually get started, there are a number of schemes available. The surplus food, which started our journey, if I'm very honest, was via Fair Share and then Neighbourly. Fair Share distribute from Asda and Tesco, and then Neighbourly does Aldi, Marks and Spencer's, Lidl has now been brought on board. It's very simple to sign up. You just access their website. They come out and they meet with you and discuss your needs and what you can do with the surplus food. And it is, yeah, it's just a real positive program to be involved with. They also run funding initiatives. So every month or two, you will actually get an email to say, Aldi's looking at doing a winter programme. They're offering organisations up to £1,000 to deliver XYZ. So there are avenues that can be funded for different programmes as well. Our Fair Share and Neighbourly Connections, actually the most successful period for us is Christmas Eve. So we volunteer to go and collect as the store finishes between 5 and 6. And then we will take that to our pantry and we will distribute. So all our families who are living in economic hardship, struggling with the cost of living, may not have an environment to have access to food or healthy food at that, they can come and collect. And you know, it's a range of turkeys, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. This year there was a big drive on plant-based turkey, which was hugely successful. And they just come and they collect, and it's completely free of charge and reduces that burden and that stress on families to create a magical Christmas for their whole family. I would say in terms of having a small garden and getting and developing your own grow your own garden, set realistic expectations. Not every produce will grow. Some will take a few rounds to develop. It does take practice to get gardening right. Personally, I'm not at all green-fingered. We have had some lessons along the way. We've had to replant, we've had to restructure. We had to move at one point some plants because they needed more sunlight. So just, yeah, plan very carefully and expect for changes to be made. It won't always work on your first try, but it's definitely worth doing. Community fridges, again, Co-op offer funding for those. You do get registered on the national website, and again, anybody within the community can then come and utilise the food that's available. We also opted to have a freezer as well, so if anybody had any frozen food that they were no longer requiring, they could bring that along as well, and again, the community can use that. TerraCycle and your rag bag are your schemes that enable you to recycle within your organisations. Your TerraCycle, you do have to register for the different initiatives. So we've registered for the laundry one, the confectionery one, and Hasbro Games. And every donation that we receive, we get collected by TerraCycle, and then that will generate just a small income for the school. The rag bag will enable us to collect up to £400 per tonne of used textiles. And again, those textiles are then recycled or repurposed. And then the money that we raise goes into our Grow Your Own initiatives. I have added this last one on, and I'm not sure about every authority, so I can only comment on what's happening in Barnsley. But Barnsley Council delivered 2 grants for organisations to receive money. The household support grant, which was to reduce the cost of living, enabled us to deliver an air fryer to over 100 families. That has reduced their cost of living. It's reduced the use of electricity or gas with the ovens, and linked in nicely with our Cook and Eat programme, so that they've learned and then got the materials to actually replicate that at home. And then the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, again, we were gifted a set of money, and that enabled us to broaden the Cook and Eat programme, so more people could register. And again, they received an air fryer and cooking utensils to enable them to cook at home healthily, more sustainably, and using surplus food. I have put some links on for anybody who's interested. Suzanne, I'm sure you'll be sharing this at some point. If you've got any questions, just pass them to Suzanne. I'll do my best to answer them. I'm sorry, I'm not a great speaker.
Lucy, thank you so much. You've really done an incredible job, and you are doing an amazing amount in your school. So thank you for sharing all of that. And I will share all the links on our recording below the recording as well, so people can access this in the future also.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. So if you could stop sharing, Lucy, and then I think we will go straight over to Jason. So please do drop any questions in the Q&A box, and we'll ask Lucy and Jason some questions just after Jason presents. So just to introduce Jason to you, Dr. Jason O'Rourke, I'm sorry if I butchered your name completely, is the head teacher of Washington Academy. The school are the only in-house school caterer to have been awarded the Soil Association's Gold Catering Mark. Jason was the winner of the Educatering School Food Plan Awards in 2016, the Caroline Walker Food Hero of the Year 2019, and is the co-founder and trustee of Taste Ed, a sensory food education charity. Jason's doctorate focused on food education and school leadership. So please do ask as many questions as possible, and I'll hand over to Jason.
Thanks very much, Suzanne. Thank you for that. I'm going to be as quick as I can so we can get on to the other speakers. Can you see that? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, great. Hello, everybody. I just want to, go through what we do here at Washingborough Academy to do with food education, a whole school approach to food education, and why food is so important to the issues of climate change. We've got new findings saying that 34% of greenhouse gas emissions are generated through the whole food systems, which is, a plethora of things that's involved. But as Suzanne said at the beginning, schools can make a difference. They can get those thoughts in children's heads that stay there into their adult life and can change habits as well. And so I just want to go through what we do at our school and immerse the children in all things to do with food. It's integrated across the whole of our curriculum. It's a whole school approach. It's in the curriculum. It's in the teaching and learning. It's not just to do with lunches. We try and get everything to do with the science and the literacy and the maths and everything. And food can wheel its way to all types of subjects. And you can see there from our map that we have there, we've got 2 cycles of that, how we can incorporate all that learning, all that element of sustainability as well, and climate change that food impacts on, and our relationship with food has a big influence on that. So we have mapped it out over a 2-year cycle, because there is so much that can be incorporated into it, and then put that into our lesson plans and put it into our long-term plans, and think about activities that we can do within our curriculum, within the actual learning and teaching part of the day, across the age range from nursery up until our year 6 children. Okay, so there's just some elements there for our lower key stage 2 children, year 3 and 4. We also link it, and big tie in there with what Lucy, the fantastic work Lucy's doing at her school, with our outside areas. Now that is our organic garden. Key that it's organic. We don't put pesticides on there. We've got a polytunnel as well. We grew 19 different types of tomatoes last year. I'll go on to what types of seeds we grow, because that's important as well, to do with biodiversity and sustainability. But that garden there also supplies our school kitchen. Not all year round, we'd love that to happen, but I think it was September, October, we saved the school £450 with food that came from that garden, that the children have planted, they've nurtured, they've harvested, and we're not buying from outside sources, and we know where that food's come from. The miles on that food are absolutely 0. As you can see there, the children bringing the food up to our kitchen there. And the diversity of food as well, which I'll talk about. The diversity of the fruit and vegetables is key, because if you go to a supermarket, you may only just have 4 different types of apples. You will probably only have 2 different types of courgettes at most. And children will say, I don't really like a courgette. But if you're growing different types of them, you say, well, you might not like that one, but here's one that you may try. We also have a heritage orchard here that we planted about 10 years ago, only Lincolnshire varieties of apples. And so there's 19 different varieties up there, and children have the opportunities to try all these different varieties, and discover that if they don't like a Pink Lady or a Granny Smith in the shop, there are ones out there that they may like. And again, that's bringing that learning that goes on outside in the school kitchen garden into the lunch hall as well. They've picked that. It's like the story of the little red hen. They invest in all of that growing and planting, and when it comes up into the school lunch and they see it on the path there, they're more able to recognise it and think, well, I will try that because I know where that's come from, and I've contributed to that being there. We also have a ready to rumble option as well. This is just a school Key Stage 2 option. All of our children in Key Stage 1 and FS have a hot school meal. It's a school policy here. Because it's UIFSM, parents aren't paying for it. If you come to our school, you have to have a school meal, a hot meal. We can do that because I know the quality of the food is really, really good. And we work very closely with ProVeg on that. 2 of our days at the moment, only limited by the school food plan, are plant-based. We have purely vegetarian day on a Monday, and I think a Tuesday and a Thursday as well. We're working with ProVeg and other actors in the field to try and make sure that we can do more than that, as opposed to what the restrictions are at the moment with it. But a lot of work with that, and I do recommend going to ProVeg, and their recipes are superb. Our chef loves them. But those option there is for Key Stage 2. So we're looking and encouraging the children to eat more healthily through that. The packed lunches sometimes can come in that aren't as healthy as you'd like them to be. This is the biodiversity I'm talking about, that we only grow heirloom and heritage varieties of seeds. Okay, we don't grow F1 hybrids, and the reason for that is biodiversity. I'm recognising there's a plethora of different vegetables out there, not just the ones that we see in the shops, but also it allows us to do seed saving. and another aspect of our food education. Okay, so the children then, that lost art of having some seeds, letting them go to seed, and then saving them. Their leek seeds there, that beautiful flower there. They save the runner beans. We do lettuces as well. Have one that bolts and then save the seeds. And children get into that process that they can do this. And again, reduces our budget. We hardly buy any seeds now because of the heritage varieties that we grow that we then use the following year. Hence the 19 different types of tomatoes that we have, because all of those were saved from the previous year. Make our own fertilizer as well from comfrey. So we've got comfrey bushes, and we make that. The children are all part of that as well. And we also encourage our community to grow. So we plant lots of seedlings. The children do that in biodegradable pots that are made out of newspaper, and then we sell them to the community. And really, really popular. So they are growing those at home. And then at the end of the season, of course, we can sell our veg that is not used in the school kitchen. We then sell it to the parents. Again, the money coming in for our food education. And preserves are made as well. You can see our green tomato chutneys there, crabapple jelly from crabapple trees in the school grounds, quince as well from quince trees that we have in the school grounds as well. Chicken, Lucy touched on that. We got some battery farm chickens, end of life ones, but they're still here. We're 3 years down the line. Children are really, they're great. And each class has their own chicken. We put a little tag on its leg, and they all have that association. And it gets the community in at holidays as well. They look after them. They look after the allotment and the kitchen as well. Okay, and we also have our apiary. So we have hives and honeybees, and sell the honey from that to our school community as well, which is really popular. Starting point here, and we know about this, and Suzanne talked about the aspect of tasted, is that children, 65% of children's diet in this country is made up of ultra processed food. It's a big problem. It's a big problem with children's physical and mental health. Children are not inclined really to try vegetables, maybe because they're not even trying vegetables at home. They're not being exposed to it. So if we can do that in school and expose children to vegetables at a very young age, and I'm talking at the age of 3 when they come in, they are more inclined to have a good relationship with food and change their palates as well. And that's important. And TasteEd is really simple, sensory-based food education, completely free. You can sign up to it, tasteeducation.com. You can get the resources for it. It's now used as a case study by the Department of Education. It was used as a best case study in the National Food Strategy. It's something that can really engage children and incredibly easy for teachers or LSAs to deliver. All of the lessons are already there. Okay, we've got lessons from reception, nursery, all the way up to year 6. PowerPoints for those lessons, so it's handheld. People know the read, write, ink scheme, it's similar to that. You just pick it up and you go with it. Fantastic. And children are so engaged with it because food is the one thing that everybody has in common there. Everybody has to eat, hopefully, 3 times a day. So they have that relationship with it. And if we can turn that relationship into a healthy one, we are really adding value to those children's lives. Okay, great for literacy as well. Okay, so your head teachers out there thinking, well, how's this going to help with my stats and stuff? Incredible for literacy and the description work that comes out of that, all the way up from reception up to year 6 as well. Okay, and you can see there from some of those lessons when you pick up on one of the senses, the language that is coming out is absolutely incredible. You know, really great. And children absolutely love it, and teachers love doing it as well. Okay, just a little bit more about our wider community, the commensality of food, the thing that food brings people together, which is a really important thing. And you'll find people coming into the school for food-related activities more than they do for their maths or their English ones, which is understandable, I think, maybe. We used food as a great way to feed our community during the lockdown. Our school chef, because we didn't have many children, was then providing meals for the over 70s that were self-isolating. So we were doing about 70 to 80 meals a day for our school community. So food, again, being that fulcrum that's bringing people together. Okay, a really powerful medium there. Donating food that we harvest in the school holidays, because of course the 6 weeks there, we're getting a lot in there, but we pick that and we take it to the food banks in Lincoln, close by to us. workshops with parents, and we just had one this afternoon actually, which parents coming in with food related workshops, and they're really well attended. Gardening, and get a lot of grandparents in on that, which is absolutely wonderful. It's really, really pleasing to see. The children love that. Just about our kind of food waste and our composting, which I know Lucy picked up on. We separate as well our lunchtime food as well into raw food and cooked food. We weigh it to see how that influences our school meals and see if we can alter them. We have that cycle, which I know lots of schools will have. On top of that, we have lots of compost bins all over the place, and we have wormeries as well, which the children absolutely love. Who doesn't like a worm wriggling around on the hand as a primary age child? Gold dust there with all that worms, and then gets put into our organic garden, which of course helps immensely. Talked about the rescue chickens there previously. We've got again the parent engagement, because they come in at the holidays and help water our polytunnels and our kitchen garden, but also feed the chickens as well. And they are paid in eggs, and they're paid in fruit veg. Can't think of anything better. We've got our good food group as well, a group of children that are elected by their peers, and they meet regularly every 6 weeks to look at what's happening in the lunch hall, look at menus, have suggestions for menus as well. School chef is involved in that. I'm involved in that. School gardener is involved in that as well. Very whistle-stop for Suzanne, but I was conscious of time. A lot in there, but hopefully some people have picked up on some things that maybe they'll be able to use in their school.
That's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Jason. I'm blown away by how much you and, well, both of you are doing in your schools. It's amazing. Just a quick couple of questions before we move over to Colette. And you both, Jason and Lucy, you're both doing so much with the wider community, with engaging not just parents and carers, but sort of further afield as well. Lucy, I'm not sure if you're still there actually, but I was wondering how, if you were going to advise a school who's sort of worried about engaging the further afield, wider community, maybe people who aren't part of the school coming in to use a community fridge, say, how would you reassure them? What would you say would be your first step? Lucy, maybe you can answer this one.
I think you would need to speak to your local partners. I mean, our community fridge is in an area that's accessible to the community, so it's not actually within the locked school grounds, so it doesn't interfere or impact on our safeguarding, which is ultimately paramount. But we share a lot of our initiatives and ideas with our local council, with the adult and family learning teams over at BMBC, and we've also got small groups within the council as well that we're split up into different areas. So we're under the central team, so we partner with them to discuss actually the needs that are within the wider community. We discuss as well with the PCSO. So I would say it's all about making those links first to understand the needs of the community, ascertaining that the need then won't be damaged, because that can happen, unfortunately. But I think once you've got things like this set up and the community actually see what you're trying to do to improve and impact on the benefits of the community, it's not long until they actually start rethinking about the organisation and actually what it's all about. Mm-hmm. So it's been, you know, we were not in the best position a number of years ago, but through these initiatives, it's really changed the community.
Yeah, no, incredible. Thank you, Lucy. So, you know, the first step would be to outreach, see organisations in your area that can support you through reaching out with to your community. And Jason, one question that came to my mind was, curriculum. You do so much with embedding food into the curriculum, and some, you know, quite a few teachers think, oh no, not another curriculum change. How did you get your staff buy-in? How did you get your teachers to buy into the idea of embedding it?
Because you go down to the core, and the core is we want the best for our children. And I would argue that food education, looking at children's health and well-being, as I said, physically and mentally, is as important, if not more important, than maths and English. If you're a parent, the most important thing for your child is their health and well-being. We're not doing enough in this country for children's health chances going forward. We've got more children under the age of 16 having type 2 diabetes. We've got more children at risk of certain types of cancers, heart disease, because of what they're eating. It's plain as that, because of ultra processed food, because of their lack of a wide variety of foodstuffs. So if you talk to your staff about that, so we need to, as Ofsted say, make a curriculum that's relevant for your children. Well, if their health and well-being and them extending their life expectancy is not the most important thing, I don't know what is. So you hit at the hearts of it, and that appeals to parents, it appeals to staff. Of course you do the things Ofsted, but then you argue the point that this is really, really key to, you know, children's life.
Yeah, win their hearts and minds, and I think you argued that very well, especially with children's life and well-being and health, definitely. No, thank you. So I'm going to introduce Colette Fox now, who leads on the ProVeg UK's flagship programme, School Plates, working directly with schools and local authorities all over the UK to support their meat reduction efforts by making small changes that make a big difference to children's health, the planet, and saves money, all free of charge. Colette also co-wrote the recipes, 35 plant-based recipes created specifically for schools to meet the much needed demand for low-cost, low-carbon and neutrally balanced plant-based recipes for children. So I saw a question come in about schools embedding including less meat into their menus. So hopefully Colette will be able to answer that question for you. Over to you, Colette.
Thank you. Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks everybody. I've got 2 tough acts to follow, so I'll do my best. Yeah, and please do put any comments or questions for me. I'd be happy to answer those. So I, as Suzanne said, I'm Colette Fox. I run our School Plates programme at ProVeg UK, and I'll just tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. Okay, so ProVeg UK is part of ProVeg International. So you can see there we have teams in over 10 countries across 4 continents. So we're a global food systems change organisation. We want to reduce the amount of animals being consumed by 50% by 2040. And each country has different programmes. We work with companies, we do all sorts of things, but in the UK our focus is on school food, and as Jason has said, it's the most important thing, educating children, getting them eating the right food from an early age and set them up with good habits for the rest of their lives. If I can have the next slide, please. Thank you. So School Plates is really simple. It's we've got 2 main aims here, which are making school food healthier and making it more sustainable. So it's for children's health and it's for planetary health. We've got a third thing on there, which is money. This isn't the reason we do what we're doing, but the feedback we get from the partners we work with is that it often saves them money, depending on how many changes they're making. It can be anything from like 10% to 20% on their food costs. So it does make a big difference, and it is an attractive feature of, if you don't buy into health and you don't buy into climate change, hopefully you do because you're here. That's another reason to get involved and do a little bit of what we're suggesting. So just a little bit about who we work with. Suzanne's kind of mentioned it already, but we currently work with about 40 major catering partners across the UK. 31 of those are local authorities. We have a few multi-academy trusts, some private catering companies, and other companies that advise lots of schools about school food. And obviously that includes, we also have schools, those aren't included in those numbers, like Washingborough Academy with Jason. So those 40 partners amount to about over 5,000 schools that are kind of benefiting from the menus that we're helping to adjust. And that's over 800,000 children that are eating from these menus every day. And we're aiming to grow that by 25 partners each year for the next 3 years, so that by the end of 2025, we'll hopefully be working with over half of all the local authorities in the UK, which would be a brilliant achievement. Next slide, please. Thank you. So my figure here is very conservative. We're very conservative when we're putting these out. So food is responsible for at least 20%. I think Jason's figure is much more accurate, of about a third, actually. That there's lots of different figures out there, but it's basically a huge chunk of the emissions that we create come from food. And I've just, on the next slide, I've just done a little comparison of different types of school food. So we look at loads of menus at ProVeg. Schools, councils send in their menus and we review them and we give feedback. So we've taken the most popular dishes that we see most commonly across, all sorts of menus, the most common meat-based dishes, the most common vegetarian dishes, and our plant-based dishes that we mentioned in the recipes. And we've run the emissions on them. So just to really show the impact of food here, hopefully this demonstrates it. But one of our plant-based dishes is about a quarter of the CO2 of a typical meat-based school meal, and it's about half the CO2 of a vegetarian school meal. So something like your mac and cheese or your margarita pizza. So we would obviously much rather kids are eating more of the veggie food, but again, ideally it would be even better if they're getting some entirely plant-based dishes in there through the week. So just to really demonstrate what that impact looks like in terms of schools. Next slide, thank you. And then just kind of moving on really from those emissions, we've got a little comparison here, and you can find this in both of our free resources that we'll come on to that are on our website. You can download for free. And we've just again taken the typical spaghetti bolognese that is a sort of universal school meal. Who doesn't love a spaghetti bolognese? But what we've done is we've taken out the beef mince, which we know is high in saturated fat, it's expensive, it's got high emissions, and we've just switched that same quantity, I think it's 50 grams, for 50% lentils and 50% soya protein, soya mince. And then we've just run all the stats on it just to again do a direct comparison if we don't change anything else about the dish. So the plant-based version is about 27% cheaper in price. It's 87% lower in saturated fat. It has more than double the fiber, and it emits less than a third of the emissions. And also, interestingly, one of the things we get asked about a lot is protein, and will you get enough protein? Where does the protein come from? Actually, these dishes are almost identical. They're both high in protein, actually, 17 and 16 grams, especially considering this is a primary school portion, so it's pretty tiny. So yeah, it just to demonstrate it can be a real win-win situation by switching some of your dishes to plant-based. Just the next slide. So again, just to kind of mention, everything we do with our program is evidence-based. So we're looking at all the latest evidence, the latest research. So we look at the World Health Organization, we look at the World Resources Institute. A lot of our program is based on their research findings, and we're just constantly looking at what's new are we putting forward the right messages. So again, the Climate Change Committee, the National Food Strategy in England, we're looking, they all saying the same thing, that we need to reduce our meat consumption, we need to increase our fibre consumption. And here's just one example. So the Climate Change Committee, this is a recommendation in their 6th carbon budget, and this is specifically to local authorities, so it's very much public sector, and we'll put schools within that category. They recommend offering a fully plant-based option every day, and to make sure that all staff are trained in vegan and vegetarian cooking. So this is so important, and this is the direction we must be moving in. And these are two things that we provide through the School Plates programme. So I just wanted to show you what the food looks like in case you don't know what plant-based food looks like. So these are 6 of our recipes that we've created. They're kind of really popular ones. We've got plant-powered balls with spaghetti. We've got a Sri Lankan sweet potato and coconut curry at the top middle, a sticky chocolate brownie. I can't remember its full name, but it's something delicious like that with banana nice cream. And that's banana ice cream made purely out of bananas that have been frozen, blitzed up and then just frozen. And it makes something that tastes almost identical to ice cream, but it's just fruit. We've got a creamy cheesy collie mac and cheese with peas on the bottom left, which is lovely and gooey and cheesy, but we've thrown some peas in and it's got a nice crunchy topping. We've got spicy Singapore noodles, which is one of my favorites. And we have our burger, and the burger and the meatballs, just to show you how we're trying to make it easy, they're both made out of exactly the same recipe. So we have lots of recipes that you can turn into other things, like a sauce that goes in 3 or 4 different recipes. So you just make it once, you can freeze it, and then what you don't use you can put into your next recipe. So again, you could put those 2 dishes on the same day, but you're providing completely different meals out of essentially the same ingredients. So it looks pretty good, hopefully. I hope you agree. Next slide, thank you. So the big question, how do we support schools? If we go through, that'd be great, thank you. So I've mentioned our free resources. So both of these brochures are available on our website, which is proveg.com. You can download those for free. Go to proveg.com, it takes you to our UK site because we've got sites in all the different countries, and just scroll down and you'll see the 2 download buttons, and that's where you can get them. The one on the right hand side is our guide to the programme. So it outlines all of the evidence. It shows you exactly how you can do this yourself with your menus, what to do, what to tweak, what the evidence tells us, and just some examples there and the sorts of language you can use. And then the recipes that we've got on the left hand side, as Suzanne has already said, we created these recipes because we were just constantly being asked for recipes. The ones that school caterers had don't work, they don't meet the school food standards, they're not the right portion size, they're too expensive. So we created them, and we've done all of the hard work, so you don't have to. They're created for 10 portions for primary schools, so you can just kind of multiply them up depending on the volume you need to make. Yeah, and that's Chris Packer, in case you didn't know, who is an ambassador of our programme. So he's just showing you, go and download these after the webinar. So the resources, that's one of the ways we help. Then one of the other things we do is menu review. So this is a really key part. We take menus and we look at what's really good about them. What are you already doing that's positive? And then we just make some suggestions. We basically get our red pen out and we start scribbling and making notes, and then we send you back that feedback. So just a few examples. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but things like a meat-free Monday. It's a great solid thing to do. Loads of schools are doing it. Actually, if you haven't done it before, calling it a meat-free Monday, all the research tells us, is a really bad thing to do, because it puts people off. They immediately think there's something missing. So it's much better to do something like a Love Your Planet Tuesday. Do it on a different day, because kids come to expect this on a Monday and they're all kind of, oh gosh, it's going to be dreadful vegetarian food today and it's not going to be very nice. So we want to kind of get rid of all of those preconceptions. So you can turn it into a real positive message why the day is called that, or a Save Our Planet Day, whatever you want to call it. So you're getting a really good educational message across too. We've played around with the names of the dishes. So I showed you the Sri Lankan sweet potato curry. We often see like a veggie curry or a corn curry, just not very inspiring. And then we'll get like a lovely, a spicy chicken tikka masala. So nobody's going to choose that veggie dish because it sounds so boring. So we, again, give them great names, delicious names that really describe what the dish is and get you wanting to tuck into that. And again, things like where you position the dish are really important. Typically, we see the meat and the fish always at the top of the menu. It's starting to shift, actually. But we pick the thing on the top line. Who knows why? We pick it much more than we pick the thing on the second line. So if we can put things on the top line, they'll get picked more. Doesn't even matter what you do to them, they'll just get chosen more often. So again, we try and encourage schools to mix those dishes up. Don't always have the meat at the top, don't always have the veggie underneath, just mix them up a bit. So you're looking for what the dish is, rather than here's where the meat dish is, here's where the veggie dish is. So there's loads of examples there, and I won't spend any more time on that one. I'll let you have a look for yourself in the brochures. We also train school caterers. So this is our chef, Lisa, who's fantastic. And she does the training. So we go out, the two of us, and this is us with one of a local authority. So we've got all their kind of supervisor caterers together for the morning, and we've told them all about the health benefits, why it's so good for children and us to be eating more plant-based food. We've explained about all the emissions and all the impact of food on the planet, and then we get them cooking. So we run through the recipes, Lisa demos some of the recipes, and then off they go into like 2s and 3s, and they whip up all our delicious recipes, and then we come back together and we sit down and eat them for lunch. And we often turn out maybe skeptical bunch at the start of the day into a completely embracing people who love a good plant-powered meatball by lunchtime. So it's fantastic. And actually we do this for local authorities, and we do it for multi-academy trusts, where we've got lots of schools that can be impacted. Because we're a small team, we can't come out to each individual school, but what we have done is we've created a kind of mini version for schools. So they're, again, free to sign up. We have them virtually every month, 9 months of the year. We just had one yesterday afternoon. They're all on our YouTube channel. If you just search for ProVeg UK, you can watch them. We've got all of the recipes covered on there, and just, you know, we talk you through how to do it. Lisa will cook about 4 or 5 dishes in about 45 minutes. It's remarkable. They look amazing, and then she's left with a ton of food to eat for the rest of the day. But do have a look at those, because it's just a great way to bring it to life. It's great to look at them online, but actually you can see them being made, and you can get a sense of how quick and easy they are to make. So workshops is the next thing. And then the latest thing, which we only launched 2 weeks ago, is our new School Plates Awards. I can't remember if I said everything we do is free of charge. We're a not-for-profit, we're donor funded. So this is a way to recognise and kind of just say thank you to all the schools, all the councils, all the academy trusts out there that are doing this great work with their school menus. We've put all of our actions that we recommend, all of our evidence-based actions, there's 23 of them, into a list, a checklist, which you can download again from our website. This is all on there. And you can have a look and see what you think is doable for you, where you are now. You might be doing some of the things already, having a meat-free day, serving some plant-based dishes, maybe reducing the meat content in your meat dishes. So you can get points for each action that you complete. And when you have so many actions, we'll give you a bronze award and a silver and a gold award to say thank you. And hopefully we can help publicise the great work that you're doing. So it's free to enter. There's no deadline. It's just an ongoing process. As you have new menu cycles, you can just send in your menus to us. So do have a look at that, because I think that's a really important one, especially for schools. Then our top tips, I guess this is the kind of what do you need to do next. So first of all, download the guide and the recipes that I've mentioned. Have a good read of those, stick them under anybody's nose that you need to, who needs to see this stuff as well. Then use the guide, which explains the programme and the why, really, to have a review of your menu and see what tweaks you could make yourself. So a bit of a DIY exercise. And then when you're making changes to menus, start with small things. Don't try and do a massive overhaul and completely transform it so it's unrecognisable. That doesn't tend to work, because people notice that it's all changed, and people don't really like change typically. So just make small little tweaks and then build on those. So yeah, again, don't try to do too much too quickly. Another good tip is sharing some of the simple facts that we've got in the guide, and any others that you want to find online or from Let's Go Zero, and share those with parents if you're worried that they might not, you know, appreciate the changes that you'd like to make. Get them, just kind of relay that information so that they're up to speed on why you're doing it. Like Jason said, this is really important. This is about our children being healthy and actually living and surviving and not getting some horrible diseases. And again, teachers can be just as skeptical. So it's just really important. And the guide explains all the why about this. And hopefully, you know, they're just clear facts in there that you can share. Next thing is, before you're trying to get your caterers involved, try out some of these recipes at home so you can just see how easy they are. We cook these things ourselves all the time. Since we created them, you know, they're just really good, easy recipes, delicious. You can batch cook them, stick a load in the freezer, and you don't need to be having any ready meals. Then try and understand what your most popular dishes are. So again, then you can think, okay, what would we like to turn into a plant-based dish? If your lasagna is really popular, how could you turn that into a plant-based version and have that on your menu, and just try it out, see how it goes. So again, you can just look at what works for you, and then how could you adapt it. And again, there's tips on that in the resources. Another really good.
Oh, sorry, we're almost out of time.
Sorry.
So I'm just going to jump in very quickly. If you wanted to have any last minute quick tips.
It's fine. No. It's all there. People can watch this afterwards. No problem.
No, amazing. Thank you. And just one quick question before you finish, because I know we've spoken a lot about primary schools and stuff. I was wondering if everything you've said can translate to a secondary school quite easily, or if it's difficult.
Absolutely, it all translates the same. I think the food that typically gets served in secondary schools can be quite different to primary schools, and it's a lot more grab and go and maybe a bit more fast food, maybe a bit more international. But absolutely, the principles apply just the same. And although our program is focused on primary schools, we do also help secondary schools too. So yeah, it works. And these principles work in all settings. So they work in a restaurant setting, in a cafe setting. It's a sort of universal behavior change exercise.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you.
No problem.
And Lucy for your presentations also. Before we leave you, we're going to do a very quick introduction to our new competition that got announced on Monday. So I'll hand over to Alison, who will tell you a quick little intro about it.
Okay, thank you. All right. So very quickly, I'm here to tell you about the OVO Foundation and Let's Go Zero Nature Prize. There are 25 prizes available, 10 prizes of £1,000 and 15 prizes of £200. The aim of the prize is to increase students' access to nature, improve biodiversity on the school grounds, and kickstart climate action. We're particularly looking for entries from schools in less advantaged areas or projects that benefit the wider community and less advantaged groups. Applications are now open. They close on Monday the 6th of March at midnight. So get your applications in now. It's a really good prize, plenty of opportunities to win. And just to note, it is an annual competition, so it will be running again in 2024 and 2025. If you have any questions, my email is here. Just drop me an email about it. All right, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Alison. And thank you everyone for speaking today. We do have a couple of webinars coming up this sort of term, one on curriculum and the second one on green jobs and skills. We are also always looking for new ideas for what would be helpful for you. So if you've got any topics that you're quite interested in, we're thinking about having one on funding and accessing funding streams. So do drop us an email on our Let's Go Zero general email address, and we'd love to hear from you for different ideas. But thank you to Colette, Jason and Lucy for presenting today. Really fantastic ideas and initiatives you're all running. Do get in touch. We'll share all the links that everyone's spoken about. And if you do need help with your school menu, get in touch with ProVeg. They're doing incredible things. Thank you, everybody.